This is Unmuted, the podcast where we speak the truth we were trained to hide. I'm Gillian Ray, your host, the Sovereign Poet. And I've got such an exciting conversation coming up for you today. I've been speaking to Katie Cope, who is a brand specialist and a mentor. You're going to love this conversation. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to remind you all that the Speakeasy, my membership, is open. What is the Speakeasy, I hear you say? The Speakeasy is my brand new membership for women who are done shrinking, women who are ready to bury the good girl conditioning and rise up with their sovereign energy. In January, I've got some amazing events lined up for you. Got the compliment dealer, where we're going to be journaling about compliments and praise and finding out how we get so addicted to it and why our good girl people pleaser responds to that and how we can break that conditioning. I've got a great round table where we're going to be talking about the rebel and fire and really digging into some of that imagery and symbolism and finding out how do we control that fire, because fire can be good, but it can also be destructive. And I've got another event as well called I keep wanting to say the well-dressed woman, but it's not. It's the wardrobe of the well-behaved woman. And you're just going to have to come to that one and find out what I'm talking about the different roles that the good girl shows up with. But this membership is open now. I have got an amazing founders rate on at the moment. If you join before it opens officially on the 6th of January, it's £35 a month for all of this coaching, journaling, hanging out with me, which is obviously fun times. So if you want to know more, do give me a message and I'll tell you more. But if not, the link to join is going to be in the show notes. And on that note, let's hear what Katie has to say. Hello and welcome everyone to Unmuted. Today on Unmuted, we are diving into the beautiful chaos of branding when your brain is juggling a dozen ideas at once. My guest is Katie Cope, brand specialist, straight talking mentor, and someone who helps ADHD women there's another word I don't like saying. Someone who helps ADHD women entrepreneurs bring focus to their branding without losing their spark. She runs The Den, a space that supports intentional progress over constant reinvention and encourages women to show up in their branding as themselves. So welcome today to this conversation with Katie. Hi, Katie.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be here.
Right. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about your story, who you are and how you came to be doing what you're doing? As much as you like, a little bit or a lot, it's up to you, whatever you think.
No worries. So my background is actually all over the place. Like a pure sort of ADHD person, it's all over the place. So going right back, my degree is in animation. So that is where it started. I graduated as soon as the recession hit. And so I was like, well, I can't get a job in animation. So I went into events management for a good sort of 8 years. So I worked in a venue in the centre of Manchester. And we did big events. We did big award ceremonies. It was where the political party conferences were. So big kind of events. And over that time, I had my eldest son. And it got to that point where I was like, well, I don't really want to do events anymore, because events, if you work in that space, it's health and safety. That's what we're doing, is we're just protecting people and making sure that they don't hurt themselves. And there was no creative side. And I was missing that from when I was doing my animation degree. And I'd always kind of sort of dabbled in sort of graphics and that side of things, but I wasn't confident enough to go to a agency and go, here is my stuff, here's my portfolio, please hire me. And I thought, I don't have that confidence. I've been out of the industry for a bit. I don't want to go that way. And so obviously, the obvious choice is to go, if I work in film and TV, that's just faking graphics. So that should work. So logically, I decided to look into film and TV, and I actually started working in film and TV. I worked for a production on Netflix. It was called Free Rein. If anybody's seen it, it's all about horses. So it was in the middle of nowhere, all about horses. Did things like made Christmas cards, because I worked on the Christmas and the Valentine's Day special. So made loads of Christmas cards. There was snow in July. Whereas I had to make a belt for a horse in under 2 hours because it needed to practice with a balloon, obviously. So that was my life for a little bit. And then as that wound down, because obviously film and TV is seasonal, I went back into the events industry for a little bit and I got pregnant with my youngest. And at 7 months pregnant, I actually got made redundant from that job. I wasn't warned. I had 1 week's worth of pay, 8 days holiday pay, and then that was it. That was the end of the job. And so I had sort of two, what I call two relatively sensible options, in which the first option was ultimately to go find another job, in which in events, nobody was going to hire me at 7 months pregnant, especially because I hadn't seen my feet for a good few months. So this definitely wasn't going to happen. The other sensible option was for me to curl up in bed and just go to sleep and just wait for everything to blow over. Or I had this really wild card option, which was entrepreneurship. And I had done some entrepreneurship back in university and when I was in sixth form of school. And so it'd been hanging around, but I'd never sort of done anything with it. I understood it, but I was just like, And so literally I just went, well, you know what? Why not? So on the Monday, I got made redundant. By the Friday, I'd set up a business doing graphic design and administration because admin was sort of my background. Probably by week 2, I'd drop the administration because I was like, you know what? If I don't want to do my own admin, I don't want to do anybody else's. So I got rid of that and started doing graphics. And I started working with small businesses, creating logos, business cards, all of those kind of things. And what I was finding as I was making these things is that my clients, even though they really loved all of the graphic side of things, they were still coming to me and saying, but I'm still not getting the visibility that I want. And I'm not seeing the growth that I want. And I'm not seeing the kind of clients that I really want to work with. And I was like, well, why is that a reason? Because you've got all the graphics, you've got all the visuals. Why wouldn't that attract people? And that's when I went down this massive rabbit hole, which is called branding, which is a whole bigger picture than just the visual side of it. There is a strategy behind it. It talks about, there's like lots of psychology behind it of how it works and all the meanings and client and things. And so that's when I sort of decided, you know what, I'm going to pivot the business into working with female entrepreneurs with their brand. Around about this time, my eldest was getting assessed for ADHD, in which he's the typical ADHD, bouncing off the walls, running around everywhere. In which at the school, they basically said, here is the symptoms list for ADHD, in which I read it and just went, is this a symptoms list? Because this is everything that I do. And it's absolutely, oh, I get it. I get it. The penny just drops and you're like, oh, not everybody does this. I get it now. Right. So I actually went for a diagnosis because I wanted to have almost that kind of confirmation that I wasn't making it up in my head. It was definitely, there was something there. It took me 2 years to get assessed, which in the grand scheme of things right now, that's quite quick because I think some people wait 7 to 10 years. It's insane. I did turn up to my ADHD appointment a month early, as you do. I actually walked up to the reception and I was just
confirmed, like, ADHD confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, can you just not diagnose me now? Because I'm here. It makes sense. So yeah, so my husband was having a giggle at me. He's just like, did you not even notice? I was just like, no, I walked up to the reception and they had to tell me I'm a month early. And I was like, oh dear. So yeah, a month later I went back and they went, oh yeah, you definitely got ADHD. And I spent an entire year figuring out who I am again, because that's ultimately what happened. If you're late diagnosed, you suddenly realize that potentially you haven't been yourself for so long. And which I was 36 when I got diagnosed. It was like 36 years of potentially covering up who I was really to fit in. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. I need to find who I am, in which I thought, because I do brand identity, I do brand strategy, I do design, I was like, this is going to be easy because this is what I do for a living. And it took me an entire year to figure out, one, no, it's not. It's really hard to do it. And two, just to try and figure out who I wanted to be and how I wanted to be perceived, especially as a business owner as well, in which I have, as all business owners have, we have an elevated platform from everybody else. And it got me thinking that if I'm finding it really, really difficult to do this, and I do this for a living, I look at people's identities and create them and help them sort of do this, then people that don't specialize in it are going to find it incredibly difficult, especially business owners who potentially, like me, who are late diagnosed, that are suddenly feeling like, hey, I've created this persona around my business and potentially that's incorrect. How do I sort of change it and make sure that it's actually me that's actually putting stuff out there? Because I know that for ADHDers, we have a really strong social justice system. So if we feel like we're lying, then it's really hard for us. So there's all that kind of turmoil, along with a whole load of noise that is on the internet right now that's saying, like, you need to market it like this, you need to do this, you need to get 5K months like this. And I just thought it's going to be so much easier because branding helps with that control. It allows you to present yourself how you want to be. It allows you to talk to people that you want to talk to, allows you to work with people that you want to work with. And it also gives you a lot of confidence because it's there as your sort of, if somebody questions and says you're not good at this, it is your backup. So that is ultimately why the business runs and why I specialize in ADHD female entrepreneurs.
That's brilliant. I absolutely have loved hearing your story, because I think for so many of us, like, we're brought up in this cookie cutter idea, aren't we? That you're going to do these school subjects, you're going to go to university, you're going to get this is your career path. And then so many of us find ourselves going like this, and then like this, and then they like this. And I believe I've heard somewhere or read somewhere that there's quite a high proportion of ADHD people who actually go into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
In the end, they actually find their way there to making. It's almost like the world isn't made for us, so we're going to make something that is right for us.
Exactly, 100%. I think it's the stat is 300% of ADHDers do go into entrepreneurship, and it's just because the world of work, it just doesn't fit for us. It's like we're not good at sticking to rules. I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, I'm pretty sure that I would get fired in a week now because I would just be too opinionated. I would question everything. I would see what's going wrong and I would say, like, you're not doing it right. I'd probably get fired. But these are the things that ADHD is, and even neurodivergence, they find really hard because they can see things. We don't see linear, we see in patterns. And so we can connect the dots 10 times quicker than anybody else. So problems and issues and challenges, what takes people potentially like 3 months worth of meetings and consultations and stuff, we can see in about 3 hours. So it's navigating those kind of things, which is, I think, why most people go into entrepreneurship, because they have control of their flexibility, how it works, all of those kind of things.
And you talked a little bit about your son's diagnosis, and then that being the point that you recognized that you were also ADHD.
Yeah.
And like the way that ADHD often shows up in the traditional sort of male ways, like, oh, you're looking at a person, go, yeah. But with women, they very often mask it. We're very often hiding behind because we're so well trained by patriarchy to be polite.
Oh, 100%.
That we're really very, very good at it, even to the point that it's causing as pain or damage. And so did you find that once you had this diagnosis, what changed for you?
I think what changed for me was, first of all, it was that feeling of potentially I haven't been who I thought I was. And I wanted to explore that. I wanted to find out exactly who I was. It also meant that it opened up a whole load of other opportunities of potentially saying the way that you've been currently working, especially as a business owner, is probably not the right way of working. So things like KPIs, goal setting, smart goal setting, hate smart goals, all of those kind of things, which are very rigid. And I'd been desperately trying to do and sort of perform in that way. Then it suddenly opened up this new world of potentially that's not the way for you to do it, but there are other ways. So it gave me the opportunity to kind of explore and go, what actually works for you? What kind of things will work for you? And also to have that kind of grace, and also that feeling of, if it doesn't work, it's okay, because you're still figuring it out. And I think that was one of the things. It's having that feeling of sort of that sympathy for yourself and that understanding to go, this is probably going to be a longer journey than you think it's going to be, but it's okay that you're trying and testing things, because this is a bit of a new thing anyway. So let's try and test stuff. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. That's life. And I think that's ultimately, it helps with entrepreneurship as well, because mostly entrepreneurship is research and development. It's R&D every single day. So
let's try it and see.
It's like, let's try it and see. And I think that's one of the things why ADHDers are so good at entrepreneurship as well, is because we are quite happy to go, we'll do that, we'll jump, that's fine. There's people that are just like, we shouldn't jump over that cliff, and we're like, oh, we'll just leap both. That's absolutely fine, we'll do it. We'll test and see if it works. And then If it doesn't work, we're like, no, don't do that. It's okay. I've tested it. It's not good.
So yeah, you're saying grace there. That's such a really, I think that's such an important word, isn't it?
Mm,
Because so much of it is about giving ourselves permission,
it is.
and permission to make mistakes, permission to do things differently from how everyone else is doing them,
Mhm.
and also that grace, that understanding. Do you still though sometimes find yourself working against that, that
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's because there is a lot of influence from outside as well. You can't
Yeah.
get away from the fact that is a lot of the stuff out there is for neurotypical people. It's
Mm.
also we're in the constraints of neurotypical things. So things like going on the school run, it's like I can't I can't stop and not go and get my kids because I'm in hyper focus mode.
Mm.
I've got to take that into account. So I think there is sometimes where I will slip back into it, but it's I think now what is really, really good is that I recognize that I've slipped back into it and gone, no, this doesn't work for you. This doesn't work for your brain. So we need to look at a different way of doing it. So there's at least now there's a red flag that's kind of pinging up instead of me just doing it completely and just being very unknown that it's happened and then feeling really sort of stressed and the energy depleting and going, well, why is this happening? There is actually something that's kind of going, this may not work for you as well as this thing. So yeah, so it's given that education almost to realize what actually works and what doesn't.
It's the attention, isn't it? Like you said the
Mm,
word attention there. When you put the attention on it, it's like
mm,
that's kind of it starts to break that. Like there's a shame cycle, isn't there? When
there
it
is.
when you're like, why can't I be like this? Why can't
Mm,
I do it? And diagnosis or even just a recognition from the more that we talk about ADHD, the more we talk about neurodivergence, the more that you realize that actually lots of people are struggling with these things. This is not just you. This is, you don't have to be in a shame cycle because
okay.
you tried something and it didn't work and you tried it again, and you keep trying the same thing over and over and
Yeah.
over again.
Hmm.
It's given you that permission, isn't it, to try something different, to say, okay, well,
Exactly.
let's try this, or
Hmm.
does this work for me, or
Hmm.
does it always work for me? No, well, let's try something else. Let's
Exactly.
reinvent the wheel.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's giving you that opportunity to do it, that there's not just you realize that there's not just one way of doing it. There's not just
Mm,
one way of organizing yourself, or there's not just one way of keeping an eye on your goals, or there's not just one way of doing anything. There are
yeah.
other ways. It's just that we have been so conditioned to go just one way, and that's the only way that you ever know. So it's quite nice to realize that actually I can be sort of inventive almost and creative about it and work a system that works for me. And I mean, like, I think if somebody looked in on me, they'd be like, what are you doing? It's just like, it's fine. It makes sense to me. And that's all that really matters is like, does it make sense to you? Are you going to use that system? Are you going to be able to run with it? Then that's fine. Nobody else needs to understand.
And I think like the flip side of this, not wanting to try or trying the same thing over and over again and it not working, is the trying hundreds of things
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not sticking with anything.
100%.
Did you find that yourself in the past?
Oh yeah, 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 100%. I think even if you just looked at my previous job descriptions, I think
Yes.
that pretty much says
And
yes.
mine and mine.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, yep, that's just the list of things that I was
Mm,
just like, well, I'm just going to try stuff and it doesn't stick. And I think it's also one of those things where ADHDers have to realize that sometimes it won't stick, and sometimes you've got to
mhm.
kind of have a bit of a cycle going around because we are interested in things that are novel and we're interested in things that we're passionate about. If kind of those things aren't really there, then we're not going to be that bothered about it. And sometimes that novelty wears off. I am a pain in the bum for software because I love software. As soon as somebody tells me that there's a new piece of software out, I'm like, ooh, and I'm off down that rabbit hole. 100% ADHD tax is definitely hit. It's all those kind of things. But as soon as the novelty wears off, I'm like, I don't want it anymore and I'm really bored with it. So, but it's having that kind of understanding that it's just like, this is probably going to happen. And so
Yeah.
start sort of putting those things in place to kind of sort of curb it a little bit, but also to give you that kind of understanding of sort of go, okay, go on then, go have a look at it, go play about with it, go feel, touch it, see what it's like, go back again. So I think it's knowing that about yourself, is that you're always going to be, that's the way that our brains work. Our brains work in that way. And so if you know that, then that is so powerful to when you run the rest of your business. Is like, if this is what's going to be triggering me, then I need to make sure that the rest of the business is kind of doing the same thing. And I can see where the red flags are when I'm like, this is boring.
So when it comes to branding, though, let's face it, if some of us could quite happily rebrand our businesses every 3 or 4 weeks because we've had a new shiny idea.
Yeah.
And so how do you help women when they're branding their businesses to get to that core point? What's your process of getting to that core point where they're not going to be like, okay, 3 weeks time, I'm changing it because I've had a new personality develop.
Oh, wait, it's just like it's the new me. I need them rebrand. Yeah. So I actually developed a framework, and this framework I use on my own business, and I also use it on my other clients' business. And the whole story goes is that I was rebranding the business. I'd rebranded my business 3 times before sort of 2019. So I'd rebranded it quite often, and I was on holiday at that time. So I was sitting in a chalet in Somerset, and I had made like this vanity desk into like an actual office desk because I was like, I need to rebrand. And obviously, as an ADHD, let's do a rebrand in 2 weeks over summer holidays. That makes sense. Never do that. So
don't do as I do.
don't do as I do. Do this way instead, the way that I'm going to do you. So I was looking at all this stuff. And when you go into branding, when you actually go into the strategy side and the design side, you suddenly realize this is a hefty piece of work. It's a lot of stuff that you're looking at. And I was the same. I had like a million ideas of where I wanted the business to go, what I wanted to do, who I wanted to talk to. And I was like, this is too much. This is so overwhelming. And so I basically broke it down into 4 parts, which is basically the way that the brand identity framework works, which is for the business. And I also use it with my clients as well. And so there's 4 different places. There's soul, position, character, and design. And so soul is basically the heart of your business. It is the thing that is 100% you. No one can copy that bit. And it is also that little thing where you're sort of feeling like an imposter, or you're feeling like a little bit of a fraud. You always just revert back to soul and look at soul, because soul is your truth. It's 100% based on what you are. Then the position side is, who do you want to work with? Because you do get to choose who you want to work with. You don't have to just work with anybody. You can choose who you want to work with. And this is where you find your position and you find your space in the industry, because everybody has a space. I say, like, you don't have competition. Your competition has just found their space and they're owning it. So if they've got a space, you've got a space as well. You just need to find out what that space is. So it's positioning yourself so that you are the only person that can deliver that service in the way that you deliver it. So then people will come to you. Character is all about that style side of things. So it's all about the personality, how you show up, all of those things. But it allows you to control how people see you, because you've created it, you're designing it, so you control that narrative. So it allows you to present yourself without that feeling of I need to mask in front of people, and I need to. Everybody says you need to be authentic, which is so silly for ADHDers, because it's almost, we're not allowed to be authentic. It's like, be authentic, but not like that, and it doesn't work for us. Whereas this allows you to be authentic, but it allows you also to control what the narrative is saying, and it allows you to feel safe and feel confident and in control of that. And then design is right at the end, which everybody normally starts with. That's how I started my business. You start at the end. So design basically highlights everything that the soul, the position, and the character does, but in visual form. And that's why it's right at the end, because you need to have the first 3 in first before you have the 4th bit. And so that's how I started the brand identity framework. And I use it across different businesses because the framework is flexible. So normally you hear these things of steal my framework, and then you try and fit it onto your business and go, this doesn't work. This is clearly not for me. Yeah. The framework is flexible. So it almost kind of like a spectrum, like the neurodivergent spectrum is like, some bits we dial up and some bits we dial down. So it works for every single business. And there's a way of doing it for each and every business, so that you get a completely unique business that is completely different. I mean, like, I've just finished 3 different coaches' brandings. All of their brandings are completely different from each other. they kind of do very similar things, but it's just in a slightly different way. So their brands are completely different. And that's the beauty of the framework, is that it is that flexible. So that's why I help my ADHDers to go through it. And it just allows you to kind of go, okay, what am I focusing on next? What am I doing now? And it takes you through that process. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that framework. And like when you're saying you're starting with that soul part of it, like this is because I think a lot of the reason why we keep changing all the time is because we probably do start at that D end, at the design. And we're like, well, I like this design, but then we don't like it as much later. But when, if you can see, like, I can see that framework, when you come to land on that, it's like, it's not a design, it's actually you, it's part of you, isn't it?
Exactly.
At that point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a really good way to think about it.
Yeah.
And I love what you're saying as well about how in your market there is only you doing things the way that you're doing it. And I mean, that's not just true for people with ADHD, that's true for everybody. But like, I feel like sometimes we lose that when you go on, especially on social media, you go on and you think, oh, everybody's doing it, and why am I doing it? You can feel like you're just one in a million. But yeah, so what you're doing sounds really interesting.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing as well, because social media is so noisy, and you see people doing things, and obviously you see people that are making a hell of a lot more money than you potentially are. But you've got to also realize that they've also had to go through all of this as well. So they probably have a big brand as well. It's also, they've had to go through loads of trial and error before they've got to this point where suddenly they're bigger and they're claiming sort of 10K months and all of those kind of things. They've had to go through the same process. But I think it's really hard for ADHDers because we just see exactly what's happening, and we don't ever think about, well, what happened in the beginning and how were they like at the beginning. We just see the end result and we go, oh, there's no point in me saying anything because there's somebody there that's already doing it. But there is always going to be somebody out there that is looking for your way of doing stuff. So you shouldn't hold yourself back from that because they won't be able to find you. You need to still put that out there, because there will be one person that goes, actually, that really resonates. And if there's one, then there's a lot more other people as well.
That's really positive, affirming advice for people when they are starting out. Because when you start out, I don't know about you, but like most people, when I start out with optimism because I'm naturally optimistic. So I start out thinking, this is the best idea I've ever had. It's going to be groundbreaking. Everybody's going to love it. They're going to swarm to me. And then when it doesn't happen in like 2 weeks time, then I'm like, I need a new idea.
Yeah.
I need to do something different.
I'm done for this now.
I'm done with this. I was like, when you have a brain like that, what do you do to keep this sort of because they keep talking about consistency, don't they? But when your brain doesn't really do routine, do you have any tips and tricks for people?
Yeah. So with branding, I've even say you don't actually have to be consistent with branding. There is a way of being inconsistent with branding and still get the brand awareness, and it is all based on the framework. So there's another section to it in which it's called the flexible brand method, which again is one of those, because I change my brand quite often. But basically what it is, that because your soul part of you is like the truth value, that never ever changes. It usually never ever changes. It will change in sort of like 20 years where you'll make a slight tweak of it. So as long as that is kept the same, then the other parts can evolve as frequently as you want to do. So with your clients, you're probably going to, at some point, they might switch and change. They might evolve as you go along, especially if you're just starting business and you're sort of kind of trying to figure out, like, who do I want to work with? Who do I not want to work with? Who are those red flag people? You're going to be changing your clientele quite quickly. And so there's a space where you can actually just evolve it naturally and just slowly do it. The visual side of it, you can change as frequently as you want, as long as the soul stays the same and the position stays the same. So if you even look at my Instagram, you will see in the space of 3 months, I've switched my brand into 3 different things. But there are certain elements that are staying the same. So it allows me to still have that brand awareness because my tone of voice is still the same. The way that I present stuff, the colors on my color palette is still the same, even though they've changed slightly. The way that I do things are still the same. There's still consistency there, but in a very natural way that works for my brain, is because ultimately I can't change me. I can't change the truth part of me. So that always stays consistent, always stays the same. The visual side of me that loves being really creative can change it as much as I like. So there is a way of doing it so that you can naturally be inconsistent and consistent at the same time.
Oh, I like that, because like there's a lot, like I like to change my wallpaper regularly. I like to change my carpets regularly. I like to change my curtains and my duvet. I have a lot of duvets. I'm well known for having about 6 or 7 duvets, and I like to change them up a lot. So, you know, like aesthetically, I think that when we think about design and we think about consistency, if we think we've got to be the same all the time, we can feel a bit constricted by that. But
Yeah.
you're talking about the consistency actually comes further down in the framework, in the soul, which
Yeah, it does. Well, if you look at even like the fashion industry has 7 different seasons of different clothing and different things. But nobody forgets who Next Star or Topshop or H&M, because the actual core value of their business and their ethos is staying exactly the same. So they can change their brand, they can change. I mean, like right now is the best time to look at it because it's coming up to Christmas. So most of the brands, the big brands, will start switching over to Christmas mode. But you still know exactly who they are because there is a certain ethos about the way that they present themselves, the way that they talk, the way that they produce things. It's just that the visuals have changed, but you still know exactly who they are. So you can change it visually, which I think works so well for ADHDers who are just like, you know what, I just want a different look and a different change. I think it's as long as you don't follow trends. That's the one thing that I would say as a caveat. Do not follow the trends. If somebody's going, look at this is amazing, and you switch, then you start blending in with other people, and that's not what you want, which I think is a really hard concept for ADHD, as especially for business owners to kind of fathom, because we have spent a lifetime trying to fit in, and now we're going, we need to be different.
yes, all the things. But in a way, this is kind of good, isn't it? Because all the things that made you kind of stand out before, that you might have been, oh, I don't really want people to know that about me,
Exactly.
because I'm trying to fit in with this peer group or this corporate workplace.
Oh yeah.
All of this kind of things, or the mums of the play. Do you know all the different ways that we try to fit in? When you're actually in a business, it's like you're saying, it's like the more specific you are to you, the more you stand out. So
Exactly. Yeah, the better it is. If you can be as you as possible, the better it is. Which is it's such a hard lesson to sort of, I think it's a hard lesson for ADHDers to learn, because they suddenly realize like, wait, I don't need to blend into the background. I need to be myself. That's weird. And it does feel really scary when you're doing it. But this is also why branding works so well for ADHDers, because it is effectively a shield almost. So one of the things that I go through with my clients is I talk to them about telling their brand story, telling how they got there. And one of the things that I tell them is say, write it all out with the emotions, with everything that's happened. And then after you've written it all out with no edits, nothing, go through it and highlight the bits that you are happy talking about. You're happy to be publicized, because as soon as you put it out on the web, as soon as you talk about it, that's it. It's out. You can't return it. So highlight the bits that you like talking about. All the bits that you haven't highlighted, you don't have to mention at all. You don't have to say anything about it. So it's branding almost is like this kind of shield in a way, to be like, this is the bits that I want you to know about me. These are the bits that I want to keep private, and that's okay. I can keep that. And there's different ways that you can do it. Is that some people do it and then they get, as they sort of like get to know people, they go into that nurture sequence of sort of emails and things, then you can let them know like a little bit more, almost like a friendship. You wouldn't just kind of go up to somebody and go, hey, this is my entire life story and tell
although
them.
ADHDers
A
are
few
known
people
for
might,
oversharing.
they may overshare, but it's one of those where socially like, no, don't do that. So yes, but it allows you to have that control of that narrative, and it allows you to decide who you want out. And I mean, like, there's things that I do in my business where I will talk about having kids. People know that I'm a mum, but I don't put my sons on social media. They don't have photos, or the photos are super far away, mostly because they've run off from me, but also they're so far away that you can't see what their faces are like. And that's because we don't want to, they've got privacy, we want to keep their privacy. So there's things that you can do in order to sort of still indicate like, this is who I am, without having to put out your entire life story on socials. So there's lots and lots of things you can do, and that's what the brand is there to do, is to help you sort of shield that away. So if there's bits that you're like, I don't like it, it feels risky, it feels vulnerable, you don't have to put it out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's about choice, isn't it, at the
Is.
end of the day?
Mhm.
I mean, we talk about masking and unmasking as if they're two states, but they're not
Mm,
two states.
no.
It's almost like you can present in a certain way to the world as long as you're aware of it and you're choosing it.
Mhm.
And I think like it's when you felt like you couldn't ever be yourself that it's the
Mm.
restrictive part, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, like, I even today, as much as I try and unmask, and there's certain places, like when
Mm.
I'm with my friends and when I'm with my family, that's when I'll normally be I will be unmasked, and like I'll tell them like about brain fog and stuff. I was telling my husband the other day, I was just like, he was asking me lots of questions. I was just like, wait for the brain fog to go away, and I will answer all of those questions in a minute.
Mm.
So I can be open and honest with him, and I can be open and honest with my friends. If I go to networking and events and things, I know that but possibly I'll be masking because I don't know the people that are there. I don't know, it's a certain situation, so people don't know who I am. So there are certain elements where I will still mask, but it's one of those where it's recognizing when you're going to be masking as well. I think that's one of the biggest things, is seeing that it's just like, right, okay, I know that I'm going to be masking for this, and that's okay for this situation. And potentially if I continued going to that networking event or wherever I was going, that mask would drop because I'd start knowing people and getting to understand people. But even in that case, like, the brand still works because there's a certain way that I will say things, there's certain things that I know what points to talk about with people and who I need to speak to. And that's the brand that's kicking in and saying, like, this is what you talk about. So then you're not always sitting there and going, am I either going to do two things, either not say anything and just stand in the corner and hope somebody talks to me, or word vomit and then they don't come and ever speak to me ever again. There's a
Mm.
process. So then it also gives you that sort of, this is what you talk about. So then you can actually have a conversation without feeling like you're going to do something wrong. So
One of the things I talk about in my community is I talk about that rehearsal isn't not authentic. Like,
no.
it's one of the reasons why a lot of women and people that I work with find, creatives particularly, find it difficult to talk about their work is
Mm.
because they haven't prepared anything.
Yeah.
Because, and like, or like they say they're writers in particular, like their work is so sprawling and they know everything about it and they know all of
Exactly.
the characters and the world building, and I'm like,
Mm.
it's not inauthentic to have like a little bit of just, this is how I always talk about my book.
Yeah, exactly.
And
100%.
practice it.
Exactly, 100%. And I mean, like, you'll see it in the bigger businesses as well. They have exactly the same thing. They have a certain narrative, they have a certain ethos. If you go into kind of big businesses like Coca-Cola, Google, all of those kind of things, they will have a certain thing where it's just like, you have to answer this way. Apple is a really, really good one for that, because if you go into an Apple store, they've all got to answer the same way. They've all got to have the same certain processes, the way that they deal with customers, the way that they greet customers, exactly the same thing as what you're doing as a networking event. It's just like, we're having a process put in place so that it, one, allows me to tell them exactly what I do, because normally that's what used to happen right at the beginning when I started my business, is that you'd completely forget to go, oh, by the way, I run a business. You're just having a conversation.
A lovely time chatting at
Having a
networking.
lovely time having a cup of tea, and you go and you're just like, I did not sell my business. I didn't actually tell them where I worked. So it allows you to make sure, one, you mention that actually you do run a business, and two, it also means that you're not putting in, because I'm very good at sort of putting in backstory and side notes and side quests and all sort. It allows you to kind of keep that sort of small and sort of allows you to still make it engaging, but it kind of tells them everything that they need to know. And then they've got the opportunity to go, I want to know more. That's when you can go, right, well, here's the whole thing. Let's open the floodgates. We're off.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it does really, really help with just having that kind of narrative in place. And as I said, big businesses do it all the time because they've got to keep their brand there. So yeah, it's not a bad thing.
The joy of being like a small business or a one-person business is that you get to do it without that sort of corporate robot speak.
Exactly.
You don't have to sound like you just came out of an Apple store.
Oh, please
You can
don't.
practice saying even if you have a rehearsed line, you can practice saying it in the mirror so that so that you feel more confident saying it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that it does sound natural, because obviously if you were to say it naturally, it would be natural. It's just that you've practiced it a little bit so that you don't stand there in the room going, or as you say, get distracted by all the other people's things and forget why you were there.
Exactly. It's just like, oh no, I should have said something. Yeah, exactly. There's one thing that I would say. And it is a technique that I learned from a guy called Vin. He's on Instagram, and he does professional speaking for a living. So he teaches people professional speaking. So 100%, this is not mine. I'm crediting him. He definitely taught
Thank you,
this.
Vin.
But it is such a good way of learning how you speak. And I think it's a really good way of ADHD is learning how they say stuff. And it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible technique. I will 100% say that now. I tell all my clients, because I tell my clients to do this as well. I say, like, it's a horrible way of doing it, but it allows you to learn what your tone of voice is, and it allows you to learn how you speak. And it's effectively what you do is you record yourself for 5 minutes just talking about your business, no preparation, no nothing. You are just speaking as you naturally would do, talking about your business. And then what you do is you turn the camera away from you and turn up the volume and listen back to how you sound. And what you hear is how many like ums and ahs that you may do, how you describe things, the kind of tone of voice as well, how like the candor kind of works, what sort of things happen. And it allows you to really understand, like, how am I presenting myself to other people, and what does it sound like? Does it sound robotic or does it sound natural? And you can really use that to help sort of when you're talking to just naturally talk about your business, because I'm pretty sure unless you were put in like a 30-second pitch, that's when normally you go a bit robotic and go, this is mine and this is my business and here's my business card and all those kind of things. If somebody naturally went, what is your business? You'd quite happily naturally talk about it. So it's a really great way of learning about how you sound when you talk about your business. And it's a great way of figuring it out and how to sound natural about it. The other part of it as well is that after you've watched that, then you turn it down and you turn it around and then look at how much action you're doing and your facial expressions, because that will give you a lot of information of like, how are people receiving this? Because I talk, as you can see, I talk a lot with my hands. So you get to learn, like, what are you doing? What's your facial expressions doing? How is it working? So you can really sort of get to understand exactly what you're doing, which I think is so powerful for ADHD, is because I think quite often if we go to networking events or we even go to any kind of events and it's sort of like things feel off, we can feel really quickly if something feels off or it's not quite right, instead of sort of going home and going, well, what did I do wrong, or what was it, or was it me? Then you already have that information to sort of going, well, I know that I spoke about my business. I know that it was okay. I know that, like, in terms of facial expressions, especially for neurodivergence, especially autism and autistic, knowing like the facial expressions, they were correct. So then it allowed you to sort of go, it wasn't me. Potentially, maybe it's just they weren't interested in what I wanted to say. And that's absolutely fine. Some people just aren't interested. But instead of you kind of sitting in that sort of that hole of sort of going, it was me and I did something wrong, I can never go back there again. It's super embarrassing. I need to burn the place down.
Yes.
Instead sort of go,
booked my tickets to China.
yeah, exactly. There's an island that nobody knows where I am, and I will go sit there and think about what I do. Yeah, exactly. Instead of doing all of that, you can have like these kind of like checklists and going, okay, well, I know that I spoke okay, I know that I talked about my business. Yeah, things sounded a bit off, but maybe it's because they just weren't interested. And like, there will be people that are at networking events that are very much there to hand you their business card and then move on. Those are the kind of, they're just like, here you go, off we go. It doesn't normally have anything to do with you. It's normally them. So it gives you that sort of opportunity to go, actually, I did everything right. And if they don't want to know me, then that's fine. I don't need to sit in the shame spiral that would possibly happen before and go, I need to book a ticket to Timbuktu.
Because that is a part of ADHD, isn't it? The rejection sensitivity. And like it's always thinking it's you. That's basically what it is. It's always thinking because we have had to mask, or because you have had to adjust and fit in. If something feels off, as you're saying, you feel like, I didn't do it right, I wasn't successful, I did something wrong, and you always put it on yourself instead of thinking, well, maybe everyone just had a really rubbish drive here this morning.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Like it's just like there's other things, and it's like maybe this one time it's not me. And I think that's really powerful, is to realize that actually sometimes it's not me that's caused whatever is happening, why they got a grey cloud over them. That wasn't my problem. And that's also the thing with brands as well, because when I talked about sort of who you want to work with, quite often, like when I talk to people, I am very open and honest and say that if if I don't think we're the right fit, I will tell you we're not the right fit. I'm not going to offer you a service that I don't think is going to work for you. I will happily recommend you a whole load of other brand designers and strategics that are amazing at what they do, but they probably fit better. And I think that's also really powerful for ADHDers as well, because we are people pleasers and we don't want to upset anybody and we don't want to have that kind of rejection. It feels really hard when somebody's coming to us and we're going, oh, I should say yes, or I should do this freebie, or yeah, I'll give them that extra advice that they're not going to pay for, all of those kind of things. It kind of puts you in a position of sort of going, no, I'm not going to do that. And this is the reasons why I'm not going to do that. And it gives you a lot of power of sort of understanding that, one, you don't need to accept everybody into your world. Yeah, 100% you don't. Two, you don't need to work with every single person. There's people that are just not your people, and it just will be really hard if you do. I have done it before when I started my business. Obviously, you just go, yes, I will accept everybody into this.
Yeah,
and then
you're
you
just
suddenly realize,
excited to
no.
have someone who wants
Exactly,
to work
you're
with
super excited. Exactly. And then you suddenly go, no, this is not a good fit for me. This is draining. So it gives you that power in order to sort of go, this is the people that I want to work with, and these are the only people that I want to work with. And so then if somebody comes along, you've actually got that control of sort of going, do I want to work with them, or do I want to say no to them this time? Or do I want to give them free advice, or do I want to go, hey, you know what, we need to jump on a call, which costs this much, but ultimately so it gives you, again, it gives you that effectively that shield of being a people pleaser, and then that rejection of sort of going, no, I don't want to. You've got the power back, which is why this is why I love branding so much, is because it has layers. Like us, it has layers. And
in the Unmuted community this season, we've been talking a lot about breaking the good girl conditioning, you know, the people pleasing, the emotionally smoothing over everything. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on, because I wanted to talk about like how this comes out in business. And I think we really done a good job of kind of talking about the ways that can come out. And not also, I really want to give people solutions. I want people to be like, it doesn't have to be like this. So your tips about like recording yourself and things like that. Have you got any other like top tips for people who are perpetual people pleasers?
I think one of the things that I actually do, which is really, really helpful, is I've tracked my energy. So ADHDers, we run by energy, we don't run by time, which I've realized is that I'm now.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So we run by energy. We don't see time. We see time as now and not now, which is not helpful. So I've tracked my energy, in which I found it from somewhere else. There was another ADHD person who I've forgotten the name of her now, but she said, like, track your energy and work out what your energy is like, because the way that your energy works allows you to also do tasks as well. So instead of all of these things of like, normally what people say is like, write this huge to-do list and then start with the really most hardest task that you possibly need to do first.
No,
and you're like,
already.
No, exactly. You're just like, no, I don't want to do it. So instead, what I do is I have all my tasks, but there's energy next to them. So if something's going to take a really high energy, then I look in my calendar and say, where is my high energy section? And so then that's where I plot it. And that's where I will go, because I know that I've got really high energy in there. When I've got low energy, then I'll do all the low energy tasks, like deleting emails. That's pretty much, it's just like, I don't need this. So you do it in low, medium, and high energy. So I track my energy of how I do my tasks. And it means that I still get to do all of my tasks, but also it works for me and it works for my brain as well. One thing that I'm also trying out as well, which I was at a networking event last Thursday, and they were talking about menstrual cycle, and how you can use that for productivity, because we all in the cycles, we all have different things that we do. It's like
ovulation is going to be different energy from the luteal phase.
Exactly. So, and afterwards I asked the question and went, right, I have ADHD, so hormones are they're all over the place, and effectively it's like you will just feel it much more extreme, but you definitely can still use it. So I'm also trying that as well, and working out where the energy is as well as also where the cycle is. And it helps. It's helped so much, because at the moment, sort of, I'm in luteal, which is at the moment it's rest. It is don't do anything. Don't make any massive big decisions, like rebrand your business. Don't do that. So it allows you also to like pick out. So when you're like kind of in that spiral, which quite often ADHDers go, like, I want to rebrand my business, I want to burn it to the ground, I want to start again, potentially have a look at where your cycle is and go, oh, that's why I feel like this. It's just like, wait until the next part of your cycle, and then you're actually
Let's see how you feel.
yeah, exactly. See how you feel and see, because it's more, that's more the strategic side of it. And that's the bit where you're actually going to be very, very good at making good business decisions rather than the panic mode that you're in. So, yes.
I mean, that's a good tip for impulsivity anyway, isn't it? Because, the desire to do something, to make a change, like that's the impulsivity and that's the desire for novelty. And if you can, it's like we say, put it in your shopping basket and wait 24 hours. If you can wait a little while, just to check, just try.
just wait. Yeah, I do the thing where it's like you put it in 24 hours, or I give myself a 24-hour or a 48-hour hold. It depends on how big the purchase is. So I do exactly the same thing, as where it's sort of like, put it in your basket, hold it for 24 hours. If you have forgotten about it, and you obviously never needed it.
You feel like you need it so much in that moment, don't you? And you're like, oh, I don't know how I can live without this thing. And then you go to your Amazon basket or whatever 5 weeks later, and you're like, oh, I forgot.
Like, I don't need that. I really don't need that. Yeah, exactly. And it just helps with the ADHD tags. The other thing that I think would probably be really good is, because I'm pretty sure that most of your audience will have A, heard of AI, B, possibly using.
Yes.
You can actually teach your AI to know what your cycle is.
Oh, wow.
So I was testing it because I was just like, this is normally where AI, because ChatGPT, super, super helpful, always wants to be helpful, always wants to be nice, always wants to be kind. This really triggered ADHDers because we like that repeat and sort of that kind of connection of sort of somebody going, yes, that's really good. Do you want to do this next? It's almost like a game, which is why ADHD really like games as well, is that connection point. So ChatGPT, it's a tool at the end of the day. You can't do the entirety of your entire business on it, but it is something that you can use to speed the process up. So you've got to be careful with ChatGPT and AI and things, especially if you're an ADHD. But it does have a memory. And so I basically said to it, it's like, this is what my menstrual cycle was over the last 3 months. Plot it. If I'm trying to make massive decisions during this time, put a warning out to say, don't do it. And so I tested it and it keeps doing it. So like every so often I'll go, I want to rebrand my entire business. And it goes, whoa, not now. Not now. We will talk about it, but in pros and cons, but there's a big red flag that says no, let's not do it. So yeah, so you can teach ChatGPT to do it as well.
That's brilliant. I mean, AI is a great little tool. I mean, I'm a big fan of AI. I have a ChatGPT. I've named mine. Her name is Mabel. And like I know what you're saying though, like that can be really affirming, and you can be like, and you can you've opened an Etsy shop because I thought it was a great idea. You should definitely do that, Gillian. And I'm like, oh, okay,
thank you for the positive. I've opened it now.
So it can take you down that road, but at the same time, it is also a really good tool. But another thing that is a good tool for those of us with these kind of issues is community. And I do believe that you have started a community.
Yes. So I have a community. It's called The Den, and it is for ADHD female entrepreneurs who are trying to create their brand identity, and they're trying to do it online, and it feels super scary, because it does feel scary. If you're putting yourself out online, you're waiting for somebody to say, that's not you. Normally it's family members that go, that's not you. And ultimately that's really scary, and that can kind of put you off from posting anything, from actually presenting who you are by actually fully unmasking. So it is a safe space for you to sort of go and learn about branding. So I'm in there, I will talk about branding. You can ask questions. There is no silly answers. There's no silly questions to it either. You can ask whatever you want in there. Sometimes there's also business stuff in there because it kind of overlaps eventually. So branding itself will basically, it tells you everything that you need for your business as well. It will actually tell you like what services you should be offering and how you do it and how you do your marketing, how you do your sales. It affects everything in your business, which is why it's so powerful. So people can go in there. They can interact as much or as little as they want, because I know they're ADHDers, they're off doing things. So it's a membership that is normally pretty quiet. So normally what I say to people is like, if you are in this membership and you're talking and chatting to people, there is probably a reason for that, because you are probably procrastinating and I need to know why. So being quiet is actually probably it's a good sort of way of me knowing that everybody is okay and they're doing everything. There's usually mentoring sessions in there, there is programs in there's all sorts of stuff that kind of goes in there, which is all to do with branding. Also a little bit of things that I find out from the business side of things, in terms of potentially new software that I'm testing it so you don't have to. I'll tell you if it's ADHD proof. If it's not, don't go down that route. Also from other ADHD entrepreneurs that I kind of follow as well. So instead of people having to go down a rabbit hole, in which there's an entire channel in the Den that's called Rabbit Hole Resources, where you can clearly go down that rabbit hole and watch all of these things and learn about it. But instead of you having to look all over the internet and going, what is this? Then it's all kind of centralized in the Den. So, and it's just a really nice space for people to sort of learn about it, learn about branding, and it's a place where they can also put stuff out and say, hey, does this work, or does this sound weird, or does this look good? And they get that expert feedback in terms of branding wise.
That's brilliant, because it is that, as you say, with the AI, you could ask AI, do you like this? And Mabel's going to say yes.
Oh, yeah. Do you know, even if you go be super critical.
Yes.
Because I've done it with mine. I mean, mine's called Vesper. My ChatGPT named itself, because I went, just choose a name, and it went Vesper. And I was like, fine.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, so you can do that and go super critical, and it's just like, I really don't like it. However, it's really good. And you're like, that's not what I want.
So having a space where you can actually get real feedback from an actual expert.
Yeah, exactly.
There's support that you need when you're launching a business as well.
Yeah, there's a significant amount of support. And I think the world is slowly changing, but a lot of the business support out there right now is very neurotypical. So you will find, if you go into lots of groups and things, it will quite often be set your SMART goals, which I hate SMART goals. It's not the way that I run at all. KPIs, all of those kind of things. And yes, they're a great way of measuring your business, but for ADHDers, it's just an added extra admin executive function load that we just don't need. We don't need that, especially if you're like a business of one, where you're sort of doing everything.
You're doing everything anyway, yeah.
So you don't need that. What you actually need is somebody going, am I doing this right? And go, yes or no. And then
maybe not SMART goals, maybe soul goals.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I do goal anchors, which is something that the ADHD entrepreneur, she's called Ari Scott, and she's really, really good. So she does goal anchors. And what you do is you basically choose like this or that. So it's just like inconsistency over consistency. So for instance, and instead of sort of going every single month, it's just like, did I meet my goals of like 100 people? Instead, you're focusing on the kind of energy that you want effectively. Yeah. So then it doesn't really matter if you didn't get 20 clients in that month, but it's just like, I still got 2 in, which is better because I was working towards a goal that ultimately at the end of the day is at the end of the journey. And I think sometimes that's what we kind of forget, and I think it's really hard for ADHDers as well, is when we see goals and it's like monthly goals and quarterly goals and all those things, it's very short for us. We don't think in those kind of sort of frameworks. And business is 10 times longer than a month or a quarter. It is, like, for me anyway, it's forever until somebody takes over or I sell it. So I'm not going to be looking at these small increments. I need to look at it in a sort of a bigger picture. So it allows you to see it in a bigger picture, rather than just going, well, what's the monthly goal, which normally just descends into panic. I've tried it before and it just descends into panic. You're like, and you get kind of like 2 weeks out and you're like, I haven't achieved that goal and I don't know why I haven't achieved this goal, which is normally when you sort of start typing into ChatGPT and you start rebranding.
I think like I'm someone who's not great with like numerical goals. Like if I had a numerical goal, I tend to feel like I put all my energy into the number and not necessarily into what the number represents.
Exactly.
So, if I was trying to grow my social media to like 1,000 followers or something, instead of thinking about, that's not what the goal of social media is. The goal is to talk to people about using your voice,
Exactly.
And so if I get too numerical, I get really obsessed about it. And then I forget that actually there's a much bigger picture here.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think people forget that. And I think this is also why I like branding, because branding is one of those things where you can't actually massively measure. There's no sort of like, and what is the ROI? You can see the ROI eventually, because it's like this company's turned over sort of X amount of money. And I mean, like the branding industry itself is worth $27 billion across the board. It's massive. So it does have an ROI eventually, but it's sort of one of those things where you're not going to see it. It's just like you're not going to put it in and then straight away you're going to get 20 clients lining up through your door. That's not how it works. It's a slow build and it takes a while for it to get going. It's not like a marketing plan where it's sort of like, I'm going to do this and then it should bring in this many people. It's not like that at all. It's very much well, it's got to kind of wait. Once you've rebranded, you've got to kind of wait 3 months for it to get established. And that's when you have to be super, super consistent with stuff. You can't change. That's the only time when you can't change your designing is in that 3 months once you've rebranded, because you need consistency. But it takes a while for it to kind of come in. And I mean, like things like Coca-Cola was invented in 1857, and now they've got kind of global domination. Everybody pretty much knows who Coca-Cola is. And there's like, it's taken them from 1857 till now. So think about how long that brand has got to really, really go for. And that's the whole point of the brand. Is the brand is there so that it continues. It's not just you're making a business for a day and then it dies. The brand is there for a reason. So
that's what I honestly, Katie, I could talk to you all day. I've just found this conversation so fascinating. If people are interested in working with you, how can they get in touch with you? How can they work with you?
Yeah, so probably the best way to do it is on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Katie at Keppel Leopard. If you find me, you'll find me because
I'll put you in the show notes.
Yes. So you can message me on there. That's the easiest way because I will see my messages. Another way to do it is to go to my website, which is keppelleopardcreative.com, in which I list everything that I do on there. There's the den, there's mentoring, there's power hours at the moment. So I've got power hours, which are like 60 minutes of just pure sort of, let's have a look at all of your brand, because that's where where I'm really, really good at with branding is that I can ultimately map out your brand in sort of 60 minutes and work out exactly where all the gaps are. So that's why the power hours are there. So there's all different things that people can have a look at, but ultimately just drop me a message and I'm quite happy to chat and have a conversation.
Well, I have loved our conversation today. And to all our listeners, the conversation continues in the Unmuted Lounge. Thank you very much for joining me today, Katie.
Yeah, thank you.